6 Buddhist frequency hacks to stop overthinking and stay mindful. First Principles Deep Dive into Ancient Wisdom Part I. Tuning the Default Frequency, the First Principles of Mind. 1.0, The Architect of Reality. Why the Mind Precedes Everything. Investigation into the mechanisms of mindfulness and overthinking must begin at the most foundational level, the nature of consciousness itself. Buddhist philosophy establishes the primacy of mind-mana as the ultimate architect of lived experience. This principle is not a mere theological statement, but a profound observation about cognitive causality. The foundational axiom, articulated clearly in the Dhammapada, asserts that mind precedes all mental states. This declaration establishes the entire locus of suffering and liberation within consciousness. External events do not cause suffering directly. Rather, it is the mind's reaction, the quality of the mental state that arises that determines whether the outcome is one of suffering or peace. The modern concept of mental frequency serves as an appropriate analogy for understanding this primary mental state. Buddhist texts categorize consciousness based on wholesome kusala versus unwholesome okasala states. Wholesome states are those characterized by stability, clarity, and non-attachment analogous to a high, its clear and stable frequency. Conversely, a turbulent mind, steeped in anger, hatred, grasping, or confusion, generates mental dissonance, representing a low, chaotic, and turbulent frequency. The resulting dissonance is the experience of suffering inherent in overthinking and anxiety. The Dhammapada provides a clear illustration of this mechanism. Individuals who harbored thoughts of grievance, "He abused me, he struck me," failed to cease their hatred, thereby sustaining the mental turbulence. Those who do not harbor such thoughts successfully still their hatred, stabilizing the mental frequency. The goal of contemplative practice is thus defined as stabilizing the mind's operating frequency to align with pure awareness, regardless of incoming content. 2.0, The Noise Floor of Thought. Understanding Prapanca, proliferation, overthinking, in the context of Buddhist cosmology, is far more than a simple mental inefficiency. It is a fundamental cognitive dysfunction known as Prapanca, often translated as futile proliferation or excessive conceptual thinking. Prapanca is the engine that generates the noise floor of the mind. 2.1, Overthinking as futile proliferation signifies the compulsive and futile mental chatter that actively distracts individuals from grasping the concept of emptiness, thereby obstructing spiritual understanding. This process operates by constructing the perceptual world primarily through discrimination and verbalization. When the mind engages in Prapanca, it relentlessly creates elaborate, dualistic narratives, subject versus object, self versus other, past versus future, that are inherently unstable and ultimately misleading. This proliferation is the root mechanism behind anxiety, excessive future planning, and rumination on the past. As the mind attempts to solve an infinite sequence of non-existent or uncontrollable problems, the core cognitive trap that Prapanca exploits is the tendency to grasp at certainty in a fundamentally uncertain existence. The overthinking loop is constructed from the mind's attempt to achieve intellectual resolution and control over a fluid reality. Vipassanā, or insight meditation, is specifically designed to counteract this by demanding direct observation of the internal process, leading to purification. Hinapola Gunaratana describes this process, arguing that liberation requires a radical, direct confrontation with reality. You can learn to control your mind, to step outside of the endless cycle of desire and aversion by recognizing desires, but refusing to be controlled by them. The practice shifts the dynamic from being trapped by the proliferation to understanding the architecture of the trap itself. 3.0, The Universal Receiver. Sati right, mindfulness, and bare attention. Antidote to the incessant proliferation of Prapanca is the cultivation of sati, or right mindfulness. Sati is a crucial factor of of the Noble Eightfold Path, emphasizing the establishment of full presence in each moment. It serves as the essential tool for interrupting the reactive loop of Overthinking.3.1. Sati, as the foundation of present sati, is defined as maintaining a moment-by-moment awareness of all internal and external phenomena, thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations, and the environment. Practicing sati allows individuals to recognize their habitual patterns and reactions, making possible more skillful and less suffering-generating responses to situations. By anchoring attention firmly in the present, Sati provides the necessary distance required to observe the thought stream without being swept away by it. 3.2. Vipassanā, the deconstruction process, deforms the groundwork for Vipassanā, insight meditation. Vipassanā is not an attempt to escape the self or cover up troubles. Rather, it is learning to look at yourself exactly as you are, to see what is there and accept it fully. This practice involves observing the changing, transient nature of the body and mind to directly experience the universal truths of impermanence, suffering, and egolessness. Gunaratana offers a powerful analogy for this process, transforming meditation into a form of radical cognitive science. When experiencing misery, one must confront and examine that experience, studying the phenomenon to learn its mechanics. The way out of a trap is to study the trap itself, learn how it is built. You do this by taking the thing apart, piece by piece. The trap can't trap you if it has been taken to pieces. The result is freedom. This approach requires mindfulness to create a dual awareness, while concentration may focus on a single object. Sati stands back, monitoring the focus, the intensity, the distraction, and acting as the mental redirect, or 3.3, bridging to non-duality, bare attention. The culmination of sustained sati is the realization of non-duality, often equated with bare attention or reflexive awareness, svasamviti. Prapanca depends entirely on conceptualization and the duality of subject-object. By cultivating bare attention, the practitioner shifts identification from the churning, conceptual thought stream to the stable, non-conceptual awareness itself. The frequency hack achieved here is profound. It is the movement from the conceptual, dualistic mode Prapanca to the non-conceptual mode, bare attention. When the mind is active, the practitioner is instructed simply to observe the nature and degree of that activity, recognizing it as merely part of the passing show within. This stabilized awareness, standing back from the focus of attention, constitutes the frequency of mental freedom. Part 2. The 6 frequency hacks, actionable shifts in awareness. To effectively counter the habitual proliferation of Prapanca, specific, transformative practices must be employed. These 6 frequency hacks represent key methods drawn from diverse Buddhist traditions, ranging from the disciplined effort of Theravada to the non-conceptual acceptance of Zen and Tibetan paths. 4.0. Frequency Hack 1. The Anchor Calibration, Mastering the Breath. The immediate difficulty in stopping overthinking lies in the mind's velocity. The first required intervention is an immediate grounding technique, utilizing the most accessible tool for presence, the breath. Actionable technique. The breath is the immediate anchor. The mind's turbulent frequency is fueled by dwelling in the past, regret, rumination, or projecting into the future, anxiety, planning. The breath, being a phenomenon that occurs only in the present, serves as the non-conceptual constant to stabilize attention. Thich, Nhat Hanh emphasizes conscious, deliberate breathing as the indispensable tool to ground oneself, noting that it brings both focus and tranquility. This practice reveals a hidden capacity for appreciation. If one is unable to maintain focus while engaged in mundane activities, such as washing dishes, thinking only of the tea to come, then one is incapable of truly living and appreciating the present moment. The individual is sucked away into the future and is incapable of experiencing even 1 minute of life fully. Conscious calibration using the breath restores this capacity. Advanced calibration. The 3-minute breathing space, MBSR, John Kabat-Zinn, through the practice of mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, formalized the breath anchor into the structured 3-minute breathing space. This precise technique is designed for rapid restoration of presence during moments of high cognitive turbulence. Attend to what is. The first step invites broad, non-judgmental observation of one's entire experience, noting thoughts, feelings, and sensations without attempting to change them. Focus on the breath. Attention is then narrowed to a single point of focus on the physical sensations of the breath within the body. This is the precise anchoring mechanism. Attend to the body. The focus is widened again to include the body as a whole, perceiving it as an integrated field of sensation. This structured shift, broad attention, single focus, widened attention serves as a complete cognitive reset, immediately restoring the mind to a higher, clearer frequency. 5.0 frequency. Hack 2. The Radical Deconstruction. Studying the trap once anchored in the present. The practitioner must learn to radically change the relationship with the overthinking process itself. This requires the application of Vipassanā insight meditation as taught by Hanh. Actionable technique. Observational no Nhat Prapanca maintains its power by convincing the practitioner that the conceptual thoughts are absolute truths that demand engagement and resolution. Radical deconstruction shatters this illusion by making the thought stream itself the object of meditation. When the mind becomes extremely active, the instruction is simply to observe the nature and degree of that activity. The mental hyperactivity is not a failure, but merely just a part of the passing show within. The power of this method lies in acceptance without participation. Vipassanā is described as learning to look at oneself exactly as one is, accepting everything fully. Lying to oneself about motivations or weaknesses only binds one tighter to them. The moment overthinking is recognized and observed, it is transformed from a defining internal truth into an observable, external, transient phenomenon. This establishes the critical distance required for sati to function effectively. By studying the trap Prapanca, piece by piece, the mechanism loses its power to capture the mind. 6.0 frequency. Hack 3. The 4 great endeavors. Filtering unwholesome frequencies. Mindfulness is not solely a passive acceptance of what arises. The stability of the mental frequency requires active, determined commitment to purifying the mindscape. This is the definition of right effort. Samyak Vyama, detailed extensively in the Pali Canon and compiled by Beek, Bodhi. Actionable technique. The mental inventory and strategic exertion. The work of practice is explicitly defined as requiring perseverance, energy, and endeavor. This strategic effort is focused on managing the quality of mental states, specifically targeting the defilements of Kusala Dhamma that manifests as pathological overthinking. This exertion is divided into the 4 great endeavors, which establish a comprehensive framework for mental hygiene. For great endeavors, right effort, endeavor action. Against overthinking, Prapanca goal. State prevention, consciously avoiding environments or habits that typically trigger unwholesome thought spirals. Prophylaxis, mental purity. Before the fact abandonment, applying immediate techniques such as the breath anchor or labeling to overcome existing, arisen unwholesome thoughts, cessation of active turbulence, rousing wholesome states, actively cultivating positive emotional states, for example, loving kindness, joy to replace the default negative frequency, generating positive focus maintenance, keeping firmly in mind a favorable object of concentration to stabilize the resulting peace and bring wholesome factors to maturity. Frequency, stability. The first 2 endeavors directly address the turbulent frequency of Prapanca. Preventing unarisen, unwholesome states demands conscious exertion to avoid triggers. Abandoning arisen, unwholesome states requires the willpower to actively overcome the mental noise once it is started. This disciplined approach ensures that the practitioner does not become lax, understanding that consistent energy is needed until the wholesome factors, the stable frequency, gain stability and mature into liberating realization. 7.0 Frequency Hack 4. The Beginner's Loop, Dropping the Goal. While Right Effort Hack 3 emphasizes the necessity of exertion, the Mahayana traditions reveal the essential counterbalance, the realization that the goal itself must ultimately be dropped. This shift prevents overthinking about the practice itself, the proliferation of thoughts concerning success, failure, or motivation. Actionable technique: Shikantaza, just sitting, the Zen approach, encapsulated by Shunryu Suzuki's teachings, stresses the importance of Shoshin beginner's mind, a mind characterized by openness, eagerness, and complete freedom from preconceptions. Preconceptions are, by definition, complex conceptual models that feed Prapanca. The practice of Shikantaza, literally, just sitting, is the most direct application of this principle. It is the method of no method, inviting the practitioner to sit in stillness, perceiving reality simply and directly as it is. Crucially, the instruction is to proceed without engaging in thought, including thoughts of motivation. The written and conceptual words must eventually drop away. This practice represents the ultimate relinquishing of mental effort, stemming from the understanding that the mind's true nature is already whole, and that constant striving merely reinforces the ego's illusion of control. The beginner's mind stops the overthinking loop before it starts by refusing to define, categorize, or judge the experience, embracing the uncontrived reality of the moment. 8.0 Frequency Hack 5. The impermanent signal. Relinquishing, grasping, overthinking is fundamentally a problem of misplaced certainty. The mind struggles to resolve the chaos of life by grasping at solid ground, a fixed past, or a predictable future. The Tibetan tradition offers the radical medicine of impermanence, Anita, actionable technique, the certainty of changeasagyo. Rinpoche confirms that the only universal law that never changes is that all things change, and that all things are impermanent. The deep realization of impermanence, paradoxically, becomes the only solid foundation one can hold on to, acting like the sky or the earth. Prapanca is fueled by grasping the attempt to solidify experience, identity, or circumstance. When the inherent flux of reality is deeply understood, the impulse to grasp is undermined. The logical consequence is the cessation of the mental machinery devoted to maintaining illusions of control. If one knows that everything is impermanent, one does not grasp, and subsequently, one would not think in terms of having or lacking. This insight spontaneously shifts the mind's frequency away from the reactive need to solve or control the moment. Rinpoche argues that confronting the reality of death and impermanence spontaneously establishes a commitment to authentic practice, recognizing the urgency of cultivating stability now, given the uncertainty of future time. 9.0 Frequency Hack 6. The groundlessness, resonance, maitri, and self-kindness. Often, the most corrosive form of overthinking is the secondary loop of suffering to self-judgment and criticism that arises after realizing one has been caught in Prapanca. Pema Chodron's teachings provide the essential antidote, maitri, or unconditional friendship with oneself. Actionable technique. Relaxing into the unsure and vulnerability is defined as developing unconditional loving kindness toward the self, a practice necessary for seeing one's patterns and habits without self-judgment. The mind, habituated to seeking comfort and certainty, becomes alarmed when things fall apart, clinging tightly to the illusion of control. Hanh challenges this clinging, explaining that to be fully human and alive is to be completely out of the nest. The spiritual path is defined by learning the knack of relaxing in the midst of chaos and sticking with that uncertainty. This realization requires giving up the hope of ever establishing solid ground under your feet, because control is fundamentally an illusion. The hack involves replacing self-criticism, which only causes more pain and hinders healing, with radical self-acceptance. When disappointment and anxiety arise, they are messengers indicating entry into unknown territory. Instead of struggling, the practice is to look directly at what is threatening, allowing room for all experiences, grief, misery, and joy. This practice allows the practitioner to coexist with suffering simply by relaxing with it and permitting its presence, unadorned by further mental proliferation or distraction. Synthesis. Buddhist. First principles and frequency hacks. The 6 frequency hacks operate synergistically, representing a gradual refinement of mental discipline, moving from basic concentration, hack 1, to radical wisdom and acceptance, hacks 5 and 6. This synthesis demonstrates how specific ancient texts address modern cognitive turmoil. Buddhist first principles. The 6 frequency hacks. Synthesis. Table frequency hack. Goal Buddhist. First, principle mechanism. The cognitive. Shift primary source text. Teacher 1. Anchor Calibration set. Right mindfulness. Interrupting. Prapanca, a grounding attention in the non-conceptual present moment. Breath. Thich, Nhat, Hanh, John Kabat-Zinn 2. Radical Deconstruction. Venus. Insight. Shifting from participation in misery. Thought. 2. Non-judgmental. Detailed observation of mental mechanics. Hinapola, Gunaratana 3. 4. Great Indivorsamaic. Vyama, right effort, strategic. Active filtering, preventing unwholesome states and maintaining concentrated awareness. Bhikkhu, Bodhi, Pali Canon. 4. The beginners. Lupshashan, beginner's mind, releasing the tension of striving. Letting go of goals and preconceptions through pure stillness. Shikansas, Shunru Suzuki 5. Impermanence. Siglanita, impermanence, undermining. The foundation of grasping and control by accepting. That flux is the only lasting certainty. Sogyo, Ren Post 6. Groundlessness, resonance imagery. Love and kindness, relaxing into vulnerability and uncertainty. Replacing self-criticism with unconditional self-acceptance. Pema Chadran, Part 3. Sustaining the high frequency. Integration and wisdom. 10.0 Cultivating wisdom prajna. Stabilizing awareness. The successful application of these 6 hacks does not lead to an endpoint, but rather initiates a long-term process of mental refinement known as Bhavana mental cultivation. The steady elevation of mental frequency is sustained by cultivating prajna wisdom, the deep knowing and understanding of truth. This cultivation of wisdom involves a 3-stage refinement of awareness, validating the entire path from conceptual instruction to direct realization. Stabilizing awareness through hearing. This initial phase involves absorbing knowledge and instruction, such as the philosophical definitions of Prapanca and the mechanics of the 6 hacks. Reflective awareness through contemplating. This is the phase of integrating the knowledge, where the practitioner actively contemplates how the principles, like right effort or impermanence, apply to their own life. Realizing awareness through meditation. This is the culminating stage, where theoretical understanding transforms into direct, non-conceptual experience of the truth. The 6 frequency hacks facilitate the transition from contemplating the principles to realizing them. Through sustained effort, hack 3, and radical observation, hack 2, the wholesome states gain maturity, leading to the liberating realization where the churning of Prapanca can no longer take hold, establishing a permanent high-frequency resonance with reality. 11.0 Conclusion. Living fully in the moment-to-moment frequency, the journey from the turbulent noise floor of Prapanca to the stable high frequency of sati and prajna is a deliberate, moment-to-moment commitment. Overthinking is exposed not as a flaw of character, but as the inevitable outcome of a dualistic, grasping mind attempting to solve the unsolvable problem of impermanence, the fundamental freedom achieved. through these frequency hacks is the ability to shift from the participant in futile mental chatter to the unmoved observer of mental states. This shift is empowered by the radical acceptance of impermanence and groundlessness. We are constantly reminded that everything keeps changing, and certainty is an illusion. This reality lends urgency to the practice. Pema Chödrön reminds us that because life always ends in death, we all share a terminal disease. Making the commitment to mindfulness and unconditional self-kindness may be the most critical endeavor. This life is precious, and every second spent in the self-inflicted pain of overthinking is a second wasted. By applying these 6 foundational Buddhist frequency hacks, one learns to stop struggling against the reality of flux and, instead, relaxes into the present, finding peace and stability within the only moment that is truly available.